This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.
A very good afternoon and welcome to Friday's edition of the Blood Red podcast, brought to you from the Liverpool Echo offices in the heart of the city centre. Today we're reacting to the Reds' intriguing but nevertheless goalless draw with Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium last night. And to chew the fat over the incidents, I'm joined by Liverpool Echo LFC writer Theo Squires. How you doing, Theo?
I'm just trying to work out, is it afternoon yet? Are we still morning?
It depends which time zone you're in, I guess. Okay. But if you're on Greenwich Mean Time, we're still in morning, just. But by the time this goes out, it could be afternoon.
It could be. I'm okay. It was a much improved performance from Liverpool last night, wasn't it? We've seen some of their games where they probably put in the same sort of performance, but when it's against a Leeds United or a Sunderland, you feel a little less inspired. But when you go to Arsenal, and I think a lot of us were fearing the worst, it felt like a European away sort of performance, and a really good draw there. Shame they didn't get the goal. But yeah, it's a bit more positivity than we've had out in this podcast in recent weeks.
I like that European away fixture. Get in there, get the result, get out.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Make sure you don't get battened getting in or out the stadium.
Nearly involved in that. I'm sure we'll get that too in that.
Surely North London is not like that, I'm sure. We've been a bit like ships in the night, actually, Theo, haven't we, on Blood Red? I've done many together recently.
Yeah, I don't think we have. Like, it's usually me in the hosting seat and you, my super sub. But I've been informed by producer Ian that you've now usurped me, so maybe I'll be on this side of the desk a bit more often.
I'm getting very strong Ian Rush replacing John Aldridge vibes. Yeah, you know what I mean, when he came back from Juve. But
you'll get a good 8 years in that seat then.
Let's hope I go on to be the all-time record-breaking goal scorer as well. Can't see that happening. We're not the only person in the hot seat today, are you, Theo? Because we are joined by a debutant, Morgan King. Welcome to the Blood Red podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's my debut, so looking forward to it.
The January transfer window.
Yeah, it's a January. Yeah. Here you are.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and you've been with the Echo for a bit as well, I understand.
Yep, just a couple of months really coming up. So yeah, it's all fresh to me, but I'm really enjoying working on the sports team and being here. So
well, we'll go easy on you today. Although watch out for Theo. He obviously tried to catch him out early doors with the time difference, but
you wouldn't have it any other way.
Of course I wouldn't, mate. It's not Ian Doyle. Could be worse, you know. Okay, so without further ado, let's crack on with analysing what happened last night. So. As we've said, a 0-0 draw, a controlled performance, really, but I suppose a lot of these performances have been controlled recently. But I felt like, as we saw with the Martinez incident, which we'll come to in due course, but Liverpool looked like they managed to get under Arsenal's skin.
Yeah, they did. They weathered the storm in the first, 20 minutes. Saka was probably the best player on the pitch in that time. He was causing Kirkers a few problems. But Liverpool, they were resilient. They defended really, really well. And when Arsenal didn't get that opening goal, it did get under their skin. And then Liverpool, so much better in possession. Some of the players that you've wanted to see a bit more from in recent weeks and this season, in particular like Alexis McAllister, really stepped up. The centre-backs were great. And we've had games where you've been criticising Konate or Van Dijk's not looked at his best. But Kirkers was brilliant as well after weathering that early storm. And it was just a really solid defensive performance. The created chances as well. Like Conor Bradley's so unlucky not to open the scoring when he hits the crossbar. Frimpong was getting at Arsenal time and time again. The final ball just a little bit lacking. It's what we've wanted to see from Liverpool during this unbeaten run, where they're not at their absolute peak form, but to show that there's an idea there. And maybe it's because of the size of the side you're facing. Like, you can put in that sort of performance against a Leeds or a Sunderland, and it's uninspiring. But you put it in against the league leaders who you know are going to have to attack at you a bit, and you can see what they're wanting to do. And to be fair to Arne Slot, it's something he has said a number of times. Liverpool's issue is breaking down the low block, the five-man defences, the sides that want to play, the counter-attacks, the long balls, the set-pieces. While Arsenal are a set-piece team, they've obviously got a lot more quality to it as well. And at home, when they're in the title race, they can't just sit back and defend. They've got to have a go. And we saw a bit more from Liverpool there. Maybe partly it helped that they had the extra midfielder in there and they didn't have the forward, and you could say that's what cost them the opportunity to go and win the game, not having the forward. But it worked. They kept the unbeaten run going, and we're all feeling a little bit more positive. A nice morale boosting 0-0 draw. There's not many times you can say that in a Premier League season. So Arsenal away, it's one of the few places you go, yeah, we'll take a 0-0 draw. Happy days.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not a great game for the neutrals, Morgan, but when you're personally invested, I think a 0-0 draw has always got a little bit of a different edge to it.
Oh yeah,
not a huge amount of chances in the game at either end, really. But did you feel like Arsenal were ever a real threat to Liverpool? Obviously, they were on top in sort of that first 20 minutes, but after that, they didn't seem to have much of a say in how the game was going to go. Were there any points though that you were worried that might get picked off?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on the first 20 minutes. I was watching that, and there was just this like grim mood in the pub I was watching it in, down on Smithdown Road. Everything was silent.
You've set the scene.
It felt more like an execution than a match. That first 20 minutes, you're waiting for something horrible to happen
on death row.
Yeah, exactly. And you're seeing Saka getting in time and time again, going around Kirkers, and Timber's doing that overlap. Eventually, Gakpo gets onto that and starts tracking back. And I think after that point, you start to see us put in a more resilient performance. But yeah, definitely that first 20 minutes is rough. But like you say, you look at the overall stats at the end of the game, and they come out with about 0.5 XG. We've got 0.3. It's a 0-0 game all over, and you've got to take that. Really, I'd have snapped your hand off for a draw ahead of the game, and that's what we got. So
yeah, I think that's fair, because obviously Liverpool have drawn 3 on the run, and the last 2 have been pretty frustrating, to put it mildly. But that, I'm not saying it felt like a win. Oh, let's not get carried away here. This is the defending Premier League champions we're talking about. But whereas the last 2 games there's been a lot of frustration out of draws, out of that particular performance, I felt that there was a lot of positives. In particular, I thought the performance in the midfield.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a win, but it felt like a step in the right direction. Like, the team fought for the result. And like I already said, there was improved performances from McAllister, from Kirkers, from Konate. It was a team performance where they were giving everything for the shirt, rather than it just being a case of Arne Slot's had to put 11 players on that he's got fit and see if they can do something together. Obviously, they'd have to wait a while now for the next Premier League game. Maybe there'll be a player or 2 back from injury for that, and maybe Mohamed Salah's back. But it is that step in the right direction. It gives you something to cling to. They're still in the top 4. There is still something to fight for. Yeah, probably not going to be in the title race, but the FA Cup campaign's about to get underway. They've still got the Champions League to play for. Maybe it did just need that first half of the season, the new players bedding in, and some of the players to try and find form after a pretty traumatic summer to move in the right direction. We were saying before this one, it could go one of 2 ways. Arsenal could either absolutely school you, and then it's a reminder of how far Liverpool have fallen, or you can put in a morale-boosting performance to show what you're still about. And it was more the latter. Yeah, it'd have been great if they'd been able to get a winning goal. They're not perfect by any means, and we saw that, but the fact they haven't had a shot on target. But you're looking at it and you look at the players they're missing. There's no centre forward there. Mohamed Salah's away at AFCON, a couple of injuries, a couple more players potentially getting injured. You certainly take up all those positives. It's something to cling to going forward.
One thing I took out of it, if I just stick with you here, Theo, is with Arne Slot had to go back to a pragmatic way of playing.
Yeah.
Okay, they were leaking goals for fun, losing games, conceding late goals. All of that had to stop, and by and large, barring the odd goal of the season contender, that appears to have been nipped in the bud. But a lot of the more recent performances, I've been on record as saying, have been boring, been uninspiring, and really lacked not only entertainment, but from the players themselves, they haven't really showed their character. But I thought that wasn't the case last night. I really saw that character from the likes of McAllister, the likes of Szoboszlai, the personality of Frimpong. And I just felt like that made a big difference. I just wondered.
Yeah, they were creating chances, weren't they? It wasn't a case of Arsenal having 10 men behind the ball and frustrating Liverpool. Like, there were chances to hit them on the counter-attack, to get in behind them. And that was maybe where you have a little bit of frustration, because there's that one where Frimpong gets in and his final ball wasn't great for the majority of last night. And he looks for the cutback when he probably could have shot it across goal. Gakpo's at the far post there. Like, I was watching that thinking, he had Trent Alexander-Arnold. He'd probably win the game because the final ball was a little bit better, but because he'd also have a shot. But this is what we've got now, and you can't fault it. Frimpong is an exciting player. He's not perfect, but he's got that pace and trickery, and he can get in behind sides And we saw that from the chance where Bradley hit the crossbar, because it was Frimpong's pace that caused the defensive mix-up. A better ball from Bradley, Frimpong's maybe in himself, and then it goes to Gakpo, and you're looking at Gakpo going, use your left foot. And instead he tries to cut in, tries to do with his right foot. But there were still chances there, and as you've already said there, the midfield was so much better than we've seen for some games. Like Gravenberch was brilliant, McAllister was a lot more like his old self, quick feet, getting forward. That's another encouraging performance. Szoboszlai's probably gone home thinking, have I not scored at least one? It just seemed every shot he had was blocked, but the opportunity's there. And when you've gone to seen Liverpool games recently and they're not creating chances because it's just everything is blocked, at least here there were the openings. Now, you can caveat that by going, well, next game, Burnley, they'll probably be back to the basics of 10 men behind the ball, and that's the next lesson. How do you break that down? But at least against the bigger sides, like your Arsenals, your Inter Milan, like we saw last month, Liverpool can show what they're about.
You stole Morgan's thunder a little bit. I was going to ask him about Frimpong, really, but we'll let you off with that. But, well, I'll ask you about it anyway. So, at certain times in the game, Liverpool looked like they were literally playing with two sets of fullbacks.
Yeah.
So they had Gakpo and Frimpong pretty deep, and that obviously worked because it nullified Arsenal overall. Yes, they gotten behind a few times with the great players that they've got out wide. Trossard, I think, went past Bradley once, and you know, Kirk has had a rough ride early doors. But when they managed to seize control of the game, we started to see what Frimpong was all about. Oh. Is there any argument for him to be able to... And this has been slightly railroaded by the fact that obviously Conor Bradley is now injured. So he may end up going back to right back. But there are other options there. Can you see... And there's no Mo Salah at the moment. So can you... First off, what do you make of Jeremy Frimpong? And can you see a sort of a future for him high up the pitch?
I think he's certainly an option there. I think he's shown that the last few games that he's been asked to go there. I mean, you see early on, it's the Community Shield. He scores, doesn't he, from taking up a position like that. I think he starts at right back in that game.
Yeah, he does.
But, you know, you see that he's able to get himself into those positions, and that bit of pace that he's got is just something that we don't have. I mean, basically nobody is as fast as Frimpong in the league, I would say. So, I mean, he's got to be an option there. But I think we signed him as a right back. I think he will probably play as a right back, and obviously now Connor's injured, which, you know, we can only hope is not as bad as it looks. He's probably going to be asked to play there a bit more, but, you know, with the future of Salah up in the balance, you never know. I think I want to give a shout out to Kirkes as well, since he mentioned the fullbacks. I thought Kirkes, that was probably his best game for Liverpool, at least since the last time we played Arsenal.
That was going to be the next point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
well, okay. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna sit this out for a minute. I'm gonna ask you, Theo, what did you think of Kirkes' performance?
He was very, very good. When Liverpool hosted Arsenal, that was a good performance from him as well. And it's when those early games where every time you're going, he's not playing well. Why is he playing? Why is Andy Robertson not in that side? But that was one of his responses. And was it been Burnley after that when he gets taken off early and it's back to square one? But over the last month, 6 weeks, he's really improved. And it's gone under the radar a little bit because it's not the same extent as Florian Wirtz getting goals and assists. But Kirkes is finding his feet. Maybe not offensively, but he's not looking as fragile defensively. And part of that was because he had Wirtz in front of him and they were linking up well. Wirtz would cut in, but he'd give him the ball. And you still had the concern of, well, what's it going to look like when you've got Cody Gakpo in front of you? Because they just didn't seem on the same wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, it was improved between them. They were linking up a little bit more. Maybe it's because it wasn't as much offensively. It was a defensive performance. But they both dug in. And it was a really good response from him, considering Saka is one of the best forwards in the league who's caused so many problems for so many fullbacks over the years, including Andy Robertson. We saw that, was it last year or the year before when Robertson was skinned for one of the goals?
Season,
yeah. So I was speaking to one of my mates before the game and when we knew the team, and he's like, why is Robertson not playing? It's like, well, Robertson's not exactly innocent here when it comes up against Saka. I don't mind going for the pacier option in Kirkes. And after a shaky start, it paid off there. He's certainly growing, finding his feet in this Liverpool team. Probably 2 months ago, there was a big claim for Andy Robertson should be first choice. And I'd imagine Andy Robertson will be starting the next game against Barnsley in the FA Cup. But Kirkes has recovered well to make that shirt his own for me at the moment.
So I am a Kirkes skeptic.
Doesn't surprise me.
Understandable, to be fair.
I'm getting a little bit of heat off my season ticket group for this because I've kind of went in on him. But I do think he has improved. And I also do think that Slot is right to keep him in the side, even when I've had some questionable performances, I would say, in order to sort of develop that consistency. The chopping and changing at the back has really done me at him, being honest with you.
I can see it both ways, though, because earlier in the season, it probably would have made more sense to rotate a little bit more, because Slot said a few times he's not used to playing 3 times in the week, and Liverpool didn't have that stability. So maybe putting Andy Robertson in would have given it a little bit more stability. But now, 6 months in, Kerkez knows his teammates now. Van Dijk knows him now. We're not seeing Van Dijk scream at him as much as we were a couple of months ago. I can understand why there has been frustration with him, and I've been frustrated with him. I've written pieces going, take him out, put Andy Robertson in. But now he's done enough to show why Liverpool wanted him in the first place. It's just the fact that he's so willing to put his body on the line. Like, he's a bit erratic, but there was that one where he's on the floor and he still manages to get, was it off Saka's toes?
Yeah, in the middle of the
right in the middle of the penalty box.
Block, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's what you want to see from your defender.
That was a turning point for me
So
in the evening where I decided I no longer hated him.
That's a strong word. Wow.
Oh, I mean, yeah, don't take that out of context. I'm just a bit old school. But, you know, I thought he did that. He had to perform something last ditch there because he was off balance, and he did that. And he definitely took confidence out of that. And I thought as the game wore on, he looked more and more confident. But like that drilling noise that's coming from outside our studio.
We had this the other day as well.
Did you really? Yeah. Well, I better speak up then, producer Ian, to get over that.
What will be interesting with Kerkez, though, is how he responds when the Champions League is back, and it is you're now playing every midweek going forward. Maybe Slot will rotate a little bit more, or maybe Kerkez is now in a position where he can start a few more games. Because it's weird how the festive period, we always think of it as really busy, but there's been quite a nice gap between all the games going through, and it's a quick turnaround between Thursday and Monday for the FA Cup. But then you look at the turnaround for Burnley, let's be honest, most of the players who played on Thursday aren't playing on Monday night. So when the fixture list is a bit more congested, we'll see if Kerkez has taken that next step. But then that's the same for Florian Wirtz and a few of the other new players as well.
I do think the other thing to remember with Kerkez is for a lot of last season at Bournemouth, he was playing with a back three, which is a pretty different way of playing left back. You know, he's much more of a wing back for Bournemouth. Now he's got to play a bit more of a traditional role, and I think he has found it hard to strike that balance between being solid and still offering what he did going forward for Bournemouth.
He's not been allowed to get forward as much as that because it's been the right side where Frimpong or Bradley or Szoboszlai have been told to get forward, and he's had to tuck in a bit.
I think that's a good point, actually, because I think it's the same with Frimpong as well, didn't it? I think he played
he was a wing back
as a wing back as well for Leverkusen, and so they're both kind of in the same boat with that. Obviously, Frimpong had his injuries early, so
are you suggesting they need a manager that plays 3 or 5 at the back to come in and?
Do you know any Portugal? I'll do the punchlines, Morgan. No, yeah, I'm not suggesting for a moment Liverpool should go for Ruben Amorim.
Well, that was one of the reasons why they didn't, because they didn't want the manager that was so focused on the 3-man, 5-man. They wanted someone that the players could play, the formation that they were used to. And while that was true last year, there is potentially an argument that some of the squad would be suited more to a wing-back formation. But there's never going to be a chance for Liverpool to play it because they don't have the centre-backs to play it. They've only got 2. Yeah. Now 3 fit and Joe Gomez, but Conor Bradley, he might be needed at right back.
That's an issue we've had all season, actually, of signing players that didn't seem to fit into the formation that Liverpool were playing. And, you know, Florian Wirtz has had to play a variety of different things, and Szoboszlai's been all over the shop and stuff like that. Last thing I'm going to say on Kerkez, I'm going to draw a line under that. Well done. But, no, he has been a bit hamstrung in attacking senses. I want to see more of him going forward.
He's not got an assist yet, has he?
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
Because Robertson's got 1 or 2.
And I really had a gripe earlier in the season with Gakpo not putting him in down the line more. And he did it again last night, Gakpo, actually, on one particular incident. So I think that relationship needs to develop more.
It does need to improve. That was one frustration last night. You are watching that game going, I miss when our fullbacks could put a cross in, when they could get assists galore. But then that probably shows you how spoiled Liverpool have been having Andy Robertson at his peak and having Alexander-Arnold. Like, it doesn't matter how good the next one was going to be. It would be a big, big ask to replace that creative outlet. But then that's probably part of the reason why Liverpool went and signed Florian Wirtz, so they could play a slightly different way. It takes time to gel.
It would be difficult to replace either of those fullbacks, but I also don't think it's too much to ask, to be honest with you.
Is Arne Slot watching now? No, you've gone for Kirkers. Now you're going for Slot setup.
well, only halfway through. Who knows what's next? But no, I think that performance needed to be defensively minded, and it was, and a job was done. And who knows, they could have come away with an unlikely win, but I guess it was never really on the cards, was it?
It was a strange one, because I'm sure both of you were watching it go in, send on Ngamoa, send on Chiesa, and I'll admit I had that same feeling as well. Or if we had Liverpool had a striker fit, maybe they could take their chances, maybe they could go away with the win. But then isn't that why the performance was so good? Because they were defensively solid, because they had that 2 false nines, the extra man in midfield, and because it was working, because it was frustrating Arsenal. So if you send on Ngamoa, do you lose something there? I can see why Arne Slot didn't want to make that gamble. But he's an unproven teenager. Maybe that pace, when Gakpo wasn't getting much offensively, could have done a bit more. But then he obviously doesn't fancy Chiesa. Ngamoa is going to start against Barnsley, you'd imagine. It could go either way, couldn't it? Like, if Slot does gamble and then Liverpool lose 2-0, it is frustration again. The unbeaten run's gone, and you think, he's made mistakes there. He should have just shut up shop.
Well, when you looked at the two benches, and it was quite clear that Arsenal's was a lot stronger than Liverpool's. I think when we got to sort of about the 65, 70 minute mark, I said to my lad, he won't make a change here. There will not be any changes. They're in a shape. It's working. I just don't see. I don't think he'll.
It was only enforced in the end, wasn't it?
Well, his only change he's made at the end was enforced. But you can look at it two ways, can't you? On one hand, you could say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that's got him a good point and all the credit for that. On the other hand, you can argue, should have been a little bit braver and maybe just thrown at least one more forward-minded player on to try and nick a win.
Yeah, in my mind, I was looking at large parts of that second half, and I thought, we played well. Often it was a little bit slow, but we were controlling the ball. We had Arsenal pinned back, and they had to drop back into that defensive shape, and you just see this one big, massive, vacant gap at the top of the pitch where you're thinking, could we have a Chiesa or someone in there? But I'll hand it to Arne Slot. I think it's actually a gamble to do what he did. It was brave to not make the changes, because you think about fitness levels. Arsenal have made... how many changes did they make?
They made 2 double subs, didn't they?
Yeah, but they'd also rested Trossard and Saka against Bournemouth, with them coming on about the hour mark.
Yeah.
They've got the squad depth that Liverpool don't.
Absolutely. Their squad's fantastic. But I thought the fitness levels on display from our lads were great. To go with the full 90, obviously, the unfortunate injury at the end, but it's not really so much of a fitness thing as a kind of freak incident, you'd probably conclude. But yeah, no, I think it was brave of him not to make subs and to come out with a result there, with a point. It has to be seen as a win. Although, myself and a lot of other fans have been crying out for a bit more dynamism, a bit more risk-taking in the attack. But in a game like that, I think it's got to be safety first.
That's one where could have the man playing the 90 minutes, because as I said, most of them probably won't be involved on Monday. And if they are, they're not going to be starting. So you've got a full week, just a little bit over for Burnley. You can ask a little bit more from them, because it's only going to be like the freak injury for Bradley. But you're going to get unstuck with it. So I think it was the right decision in the end. It's easy to say in the heat of the moment, maybe make an attacking sub. But if it hadn't paid off and he had made the attacking sub and then they're gone lose, it's got to be a gamble. And he's playing a long game here, isn't he?
I'm inclined to agree. And it is in keeping with how his approach has been overall, given the opposition and weighing up the he was risk averse. Let's put it that way. Who'd have thought we'd ever say that on the Blood Red podcast?
And you got to ask as well, what could he have changed when there's limited options on the bench? It would have been Chiesa, who he doesn't fancy, or Ngamoa. If you take off Gakpo, who's probably one of the players that didn't have the best game, but he's also your tall attacking player, one of the ones that can handle that physical challenge against Arsenal. Ngamoa can skin him for pace and trickery, but you could also get bullied by them. That could go either way. Maybe you take off Frimpong because he is a right wing back, playing right wing. But then he offered you the defensive solidity, protecting the player behind him. The only other thing I thought you could have maybe done, which you don't want to see Liverpool doing, is stick Van Dijk up front for the final 5-10 minutes and put Gomez on for one of the options. But then why would you make that change when it's 0-0?
That doesn't feel risk-averse.
It's the only other thing they could have done, though, without the centre-forward. Because we've seen Van Dijk just go up front in the last minute of a few games recently when Liverpool have needed a goal. But then that shows the difference of playing your Leeds, your Sunderland, your Fulham, and playing Arsenal at the Emirates.
That tells you that they didn't need a goal.
Exactly.
Basically.
They were happy to get the point.
Well, one player who definitely won't be involved against Barnsley is Conor Bradley.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So, I'll come to Martinelli in a moment, but Bradley has had injury problems this season, suspension problems. He's had to be taken off early in some games because of yellow cards, but it's been a little bit stop. Well, I say a little bit stop-start. It's been very stop-start for him. He had an opportunity here to sort of pin down this right-back position in Trent Alexander-Arnold's absence or exit and make it his own. He's not been able to do that yet fully, even though I think he's clearly got Arne Slot's back in. He sees him as his first-choice right-back, but he doesn't appear to be able to catch a break.
Yeah, your heart goes out to him, doesn't it? Because it looks like a really serious injury. Arne Slot says he fears the worst. Yeah, I think it's his knee. We'll have to see.
He seemed to go over on his ankle, but then clutched his knee, didn't he?
Yeah. So, like Slot says, if it's what they think it is, it's going to be a bad one. Which just reminds me of what they were saying when Leone did his ACL. I'm not going to say it is his ACL. We'll just have to find out, but it could be a serious season-ending one. Fingers crossed it's not. But Eli, as you said, he just can't catch a break. Like, this was a run in the team where he has been getting those opportunities at right back when Frimpong's been playing ahead of him. He's been doing well as well for the majority, and this is one of his better performances so far this season. And the fact that it's come in the circumstances as, it's not as though there's been this awful challenge flying in on him. He's just been running back, trying to clear a ball. He's got, studs caught in the ground or something. He's landed awkwardly. It's just so innocuous. And he can't catch a break. If he's out for the season as well, it gives Frimpong the opportunity to make the shirt his own. And then think, well, how long is Conor Bradley going to be out for here? Yeah. Is he back in pre-season or is he back next autumn and then he's playing catch-up? It's a tough one. But players can come back from serious injuries. We've seen it before with Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, who have all his teammates around him, who have Giovanni Leone, who's going through the same sort of thing, depending on what the injury is. And it's just heartbreaking for him because he's such a likeable player as well, and he gives everything for the shirt. And it's not just Liverpool who miss out now as well. Like, you think Northern Ireland, they've got important World Cup playoff games coming up in March time, which you imagine he's not going to stand a chance of being fit for unless they get the best possible news. And it's like, well, if they go through those playoffs and playing in the World Cup, it's doubt for that as well. So all hope in touchwood it's the best possible scenario. But when you see him leaving on crutches, see him stretched off, his shirt over his face, comments from Arne Slot, you do fear the worst, that it could be a long one. Yeah,
it doesn't look good. I'm really disappointed about it. He's one of my sort of favourites, really, Conor Bradley's. For me, he sort of epitomises everything a Liverpool player should be. And he's still young and he's still learning, and I feel like he could go on to have such a great career. But I've also seen people who could have great careers get undone by injuries and other setbacks. So there's no guarantees in football, is there? I don't know. Well, let's sort of draw a line under this injury thing and just look at the other incident that was kind of linked to it. Now, Arsenal are well versed in the dark arts, and to play devil's advocate slightly, Gabriel Martinelli thinks that Conor Bradley is later on thick and is trying to slow the game down.
Well, it takes one to know one, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. So, but what is he doing? What were your thoughts on the incident, Warren?
I can understand. I can imagine what's going through his head because like we saw it. From him. I believe there was an incident a year or so ago where he's off the pitch, holding his leg, and Arteta goes to him, roll back on the pitch, waste a bit of time. So he's probably looking at it and thinking that that's what's going on, but you don't do that when a player is down. It's like the old saying, right? You don't kick a man when he's down. And he's gone over to him, he's dropped the ball on him, and then he pushes him off the pitch. And it doesn't take that much looking at the situation to see that he's in a lot of pain and he's not faking it. And To me, it was just absolutely disgusting. I'm really impressed with the mentality of our players in that moment not to just deck him. Because if I'd have been there, I would have done.
I was going to say, I'm not sure I agree. But yeah, no, you're probably in the...
I would have loved to have seen it, don't get me wrong. But
there's a few characters. I think you were saying earlier, Theo, if Darwin Núñez had been around, might have been a bit of a different outcome.
There's that famous clip in a Chelsea-Man City game, isn't there, when Diego Costa's gone off injured, but then there's a scrap and he just... his ears prick up, he's like a little meerkat, and he sprints over to get involved. I'd imagine if Darwin Núñez was a Liverpool player, it'd have been very much like that yesterday, wanting to get involved. It was a strange one, because Martinelli is a player who's done his knee quite seriously in the past himself. And I think there was an instant where Arsenal were appealing for a penalty, and it looked like he might have to go off with a knee injury yesterday's game. But then, oh wait, he's fine, he can play on. So it's not even in earlier games. In this literal game, Martinelli has put it on a little bit thick. Whereas Conor Bradley, yeah, it might happen in games when you're against the lesser sides in the Premier League, when they are trying to cling on to a 0-0 draw at the Emirates. But he's gone down off the ball. You're not going to milk that the same way, are you? You can't claim that, I'm badly injured here, if you're not. Just have a bit of human decency there. Like, to drop the ball on him was one thing, then to go and shove him as well. Like, you see a bit of fight from Canate, McAllister, Szoboszlai. Van Dijk gets involved as well. But I think there was a shock there as well, because you're watching it and going, what's he just done? Why are you doing this? Conor Bradley is clearly quite badly hurt, and then he stretched it off. I don't think there's going to be any greater ramifications here. Like, whilst we're recording, I believe we're going to have Van Dijk quotes going out on it from the embargo, from the mix zone yesterday. I'm not sure entirely how strong they are going to be, but Szoboszlai was quite strong in it last night, wasn't he, when he was talking to Sky? So the Liverpool dressing room is obviously not that impressed with it. But Arne Slot's played it down. Mikel Arteta's played it down. Martinelli's come out and apologised. He did get booked. I think it's how Conor Bradley responds to it now. Like, if he comes out but then Liverpool aren't going to forget. Like, they could play Arsenal again in the FA Cup. They could play them again in the Champions League this season. And if not, next time Martinelli's at Anfield, that crowd are not going to let him forget what he did.
Certainly not. Do you think he should have been sent off, Morgan?
Absolutely, yeah. It's violent conduct. You laying the hands on a player, you're off the ball's not in play. The only motivation from there is to lash out at a player that he thinks is breaking the rules, and like you say, he's plenty guilty of it himself, and everyone saw that he went down off the ball. I think if the PGMOL don't dish out a retrospective ban of at least 3 games, then it will be no great surprise. But
well, I can tell you that is not going to happen, because our understanding is that they'll take no further action. And I think there's a strong case that he could have been sent off. Yeah. However, I also think that it is correct that there isn't retrospective action, because the referee was right in front of it. He saw the full incident. It'll be in his report, and he booked the player.
This is something where they need to change the rules, though. Like, they hide behind it far too often, where the referee's seen it, the referee's booked him, so we can't do anything. It's like, well, you've got VAR there, so you can undo certain things.
Yeah, but they haven't done anything either.
No.
They're not said, we think you should escalate that to
no. But then it's the lack of consistency there, isn't there? Like, that's always been the case, how we could have that incident happen in 3 games in a row. One referee sends him off, one referee books him, one referee does nothing. So it's just, there's no consistency there. The FA hide behind the rules going, we can't do anything because he's had the booking. It would have been a braver thing for them to intervene, but they're never going to, because they try and go, well, it has to be what's done on the pitch. And they've only recently really moved away from that in terms of VAR. But VAR can still hide behind going, well, he's booked him, so we can't really change that. It's just another thing that's wrong with officiating in modern football.
Part of this culture of protecting the refs, I feel. And, they've got this whole thing with Howard Webb that's supposed to be more transparent, He'll go out there, he'll explain a decision, but
he won't come out
every
and say
time he's just going to agree with the referee's opinion.
Like, he has come out and said a few times, that was the wrong thing. He's not going to come out and say this was the wrong one, because it's not a proper assault. It's a frustrated player.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. I don't think, as you said, they're not going to take retrospective action, but I don't think the official's going to come out and say they got it wrong either.
Yeah, and look, I have a thing about re-refereeing a game. I'm not a big fan. I hate VAR, for starters, and I do have a thing about a game being re-refed, even if you think the ref's made an incorrect decision or a poor decision. And you could very much, I think you could argue they should have been sent off. Probably should have, to be honest, but they're just going to, as I say, you're going to have to let that go. But when Liverpool play Arsenal again, as you say, not going to forget it, are they? So
imagine if they face each other in the Champions League quarterfinals, semi-finals this year. Anfield's second leg, Martinelli's not going to know where hit him.
Imagine if Bradley's back for it.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I've seen some of Conor Bradley's tackles. I'm sure Kylian Mbappe remembers one. But yeah,
that's the thing. Who in that Liverpool side, apart from Conor Bradley, is going to be the one to lay something on him? Like we saw, when Torres came, or not when he came back, when Liverpool faced Chelsea after Torres had gone, and you had the Daniel Agger elbow in on him, and then you had John Flanagan on Raheem Sterling when he came back to Anfield for the first time with Man City. Conor Bradley would have probably been the Liverpool player to lay that marker on someone when they need to. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone steps up to do that in his place. Not that we endorse such activity here on the Blood Red podcast.
I could see Kurt Jones rising to the challenge.
The Blood Red podcast does not endorse violence of any kind, on or off the pitch. That point leaves Liverpool 8 points behind Aston Villa and Manchester City. I asked Paul Gorst, our colleague, last week, is this as high as Liverpool can go? He was of the opinion they could finish third. I'd
agree with him.
I'm not so sure. I said last week, I think this is as high as they'll go. But they're not a million miles. I mean, 8 points is 8 points though. So okay, so we'll go to as you've kind of got your taken it already, Theo. We'll go with you first. What do you think?
I'd agree with Gorsty. I reckon they can get third. It's just been a strange few weeks in the Premier League because everyone's slipping up. Everyone's dropping points. There was a real opportunity over this run for Liverpool to build a real gap on the likes of Chelsea and Manchester United, and they haven't taken it. But at the same time, if Chelsea and United had put 3 points on the board a few more times, Liverpool wouldn't be fourth. Liverpool wouldn't be anywhere near fourth. Everyone has dropped points.
Well, the most consistent team in that sort of
Brentford,
group is Brentford.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Brentford have climbed the table. They're up to fifth, now breathing down Liverpool's necks. They've got the advantage going into the second half of the season where they're not going to have European football. And you'd much rather be in the Champions League, Europa, whatever, depending on who you are. But that will aid them to go in for European football. Whereas some sides, like Liverpool, when they haven't got half the squad out injured, can handle that squad management. I don't think your Newcastles and your Aston Villas can to the same extent. Like Villa started the season really slowly and they've done really well since then. But it does catch up on you. We're seeing that with Crystal Palace when they've hit a poor run of form because they can't keep it going with that smaller squad size. So I think Villa aren't going to keep this going for the entire season. They will drop points. If Liverpool are in that position, they're in now, they can make up that gap. But then you're also at the mercy of injuries. Like we're seeing, Bradley's been struck down now. And who else can they lose? Like Frimpong went over on his ankle, and another day they could lose both right backs in this game. So just keep your players fit, get a few more back from injury. And Liverpool have got the experience to finish third. But everyone is dropping points at the moment. It is not peak Premier League when it was Klopp versus Guardiola a few years ago.
And let's not forget, Manchester City are on the same points as Aston Villa. They're only ahead of them on goal difference.
Yeah, and they're another side. Like they could have easily taken Arsenal over the last few weeks, but they've been dropping points.
Yeah. So the point about injuries, as I say, Brentford are up to fifth. They've got a centre forward who's scoring goals. Does Liverpool's success, Morgan, hinge on the fitness of Hugo Ekitike?
I think you have to assume for now that it does. I've been saying for weeks that I think Slot needs to give more game time to players like Chiesa and Gamola. If he doesn't fancy them, that's one thing. But we saw this with Klopp time and time again. It's the next man up. And if these players, what's that?
There's a transfer window open.
There is, yeah. But you look at what's available in terms of homegrown players. Semenyo's gone to City. We need outgoings before we bring in any more foreign players because we're at that quota. And I'm not.
It's like you got a high piece earlier this week. Explain.
But no, I think the priority has to be defence at the moment anyway. I mean, I'd love to see us buy an attacker this window, but I don't think it's going to happen because I think, if we're going to sign anyone, it has to be a senior centre-back. So considering we've now only got 3 of them, one of them is going to need to play right back a lot of the time in Joe Gomez. Now Bradley's picked up that injury. I think that's got to be priority number 1.
Any case at all to bring Harvey Elliott back?
Absolutely. I think it's a no-brainer. Really surprised there haven't been, more more reports of talks happening, and all we are hearing really is that Slot's not interested in having him back. And for me, I
think it's more awkward than that, to be honest. I think it's there was no recall clause, so Villa would have to open the talks, and because there was the 35 million clause to buy him if they play it, they'd also have to pay to send him back. And they don't want to pay to keep him because of PSR, but they probably don't want to pay to send him back either.
Yeah.
So they'd have to talk, find a compromise, and Liverpool have also done their own business of, he's not our player anymore. We don't think he's going to be our player anymore. And take that into the financial considerations, the wages and everything. But when you take all that red tape aside, Liverpool are short on bodies. Have the conversation, make it happen. Because if you can't go and sign someone, you can still fit a forward midfielder in the squad and Harvey Elliott. And granted, when everyone is fit, he's not starting games. You've got Szoboszlai and Wirtz who are playing number 10 ahead of him. Curtis Jones, who Arne Slot is obviously a big fan of as well. But we've had
Salah will be back.
Salah will be back as well. But in this last 6 weeks, Wirtz has been on the left. Szoboszlai has been on the right for quite a bit of it. You could have had Harvey Elliott as your number 10 there.
Yeah, and I think it's worth remembering as well that when that move went through on deadline day, a lot of us were saying 35 million's a bit low, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, there's always the chance from a business perspective that if Liverpool were able to get him back this month, and I know I've heard those reports too, but he is still our player. He is still under contract at Liverpool until they choose to, until they hit that obligation to buy. So I find it hard to believe that, you know, talks aren't an option. And you look at it and you think, well, actually, if he does get a run of games this second half of the season, there's no reason his valuation couldn't go up. And if they still want to get rid of him, they could potentially sell him for higher than 35 million in the summer.
And it's better to have him training with your players. You're in control of it. Better to have him on your bench, using him when you want to use him, than just rotting at Aston Villa.
Absolutely.
It sounds like the only person you need to convince is Arne Slot.
But as I said, it's more complicated than that. I think if it was purely down to footballing reasons, it would have already been done. But there's obviously a lot more that needs to be resolved behind the scenes.
Have Liverpool missed Mo Salah?
Yes. They miss that person who can be prolific in front of goal, take the chances, create things. But at the same time, this unbeaten run has come with him out the side. So it's how would you fit him back in? Like we're saying how great this draw was at Arsenal. And part of that was because you had Frimpong ahead of Bradley, offering that bit more protection that you wouldn't have necessarily had with Mohamed Salah. And we've had that in earlier games when it's been Dominic Szoboszlai offering the protection. So it's finding that compromise. Liverpool haven't been perfect without him. There is clearly a way to have him back in that side. We saw glimpses of that when he came on against Brighton. I wonder if there is a case for trying him centrally, trying him as that striker, because you can't have Ekitike playing up front every single match when Isak's out, or maybe having him as the number 10. Granted, he's not going to press and run his socks off the same way as Wirtz or Szoboszlai, but last season he won the Golden Boot, he won the Playmaker Award. He's clearly your most dangerous player in those positions. And Liverpool, during the first half of the season, were not getting him in those positions. So it's something to resolve. They've missed him because they've had these games where they've not been creating much. And it probably would have been a case of Salah's there not creating much either and got the same frustrations. But if you're looking at a game where one chance, one goal, you walk away from the Emirates with a 1-0 win, Mohamed Salah's the one you back most of all to create that chance, take that chance, and to give Liverpool victory.
If he gets in that position that Frimpong gets in late in the game, where he squares it. Well, he's not squaring it. We know that for starters. That's going in probably. Well, that's going to try and go in the far corner, isn't it?
Yeah, he rolls in the far corner, and he's having a good AFCON as well. So you're hoping that gives him confidence and a bit of form whenever he comes back.
He's got a quarter-final.
Yes,
tomorrow against
Ivory Coast. Yeah, he's got 3 goals in 3 games so far. We were talking before we came on air about the one against Benin in the round of 16. It's a lovely Trivela finish on the counter attack. He's got a winner in the last minute against Zimbabwe, I think, in the first game. Scored a penalty to win against South Africa as well. He's their leader. He's the talisman. He's playing with a smile on his face. People can bemoan the fact that it's the quality of the side's probably not as strong as he's facing in the Premier League, but he's looking a bit more like Mohamed Salah, we know. So fingers crossed that's the one that comes back to Liverpool.
I'm sure he would have kept a keen eye on Liverpool's performance against Arsenal last night. Hopefully he watched the game, probably over a secure internet connection, and if that's what he needs, he'll probably want to use a NordVPN, who just happened to be the sponsor of the Blood Red podcast. To get the best discounts off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And
it's one of the clauses he had in that contract he signed in April that he gets a Nord subscription.
Is that right? Yeah. Well, he's here for an extra 4 months on a 2-year contract then. The link is in the podcast episode description box below. Can't forget about Nord. We're nearly at the end of the podcast, but let's just look ahead to Monday because there is no game this weekend. You can put your feet up, Theo.
I can't. I'm working it all.
Fair.
The other two get to put their feet up on.
So am I, to be honest. So, yeah. But just what you wanted, an FA Cup third round Monday night at Anfield against Barnsley. We've already seen how Arne Slot tends to approach domestic cup matches after he effectively wrote off the League Cup against Crystal Palace with his team selection. Probably expecting something fairly similar given the injuries that he's got at the moment on Monday. Yeah,
he can't do too much, can he? It'll be interesting to see how strong or weak he goes. Like, you'd imagine the substitutes against Arsenal will probably start, apart from the third choice keeper and Freddie Woodman. And then it's how much do you turn to the academy or how much do you ask some of these players to go again? I'd imagine he'll go more to using the academy to fill it out a little bit because that's what we saw against Crystal Palace. That's what we saw against Plymouth last year. The only reason he might not need to is because you've got a nice gap before the Burnley game, but it is a quick turnaround from the Arsenal game. So we'll see. It's just seeing who's available. Like if Jayden Downs was fit, it's easy. You're up front. If Will Wright was fit, maybe he gets a debut. But you're not sure where they are in from their recovery from injury. Basetic as well. I think there are reports this week that he suffered a little bit of a setback coming back from the hamstring. So there's not too much they've even got there coming from the academy that can step up. There's maybe Welity Lucky. Calvin Ramsey, if you count him, then he'll probably be needed.
Neone definitely starts.
Yeah, those two, and Neone and Ngamoa start, but the rest of it.
Let's get into that then. Let's pick our teams for Monday. So I think it likely Mohamed Ashley will be in goal.
Yep.
So in terms of a back line, what are you thinking, Morgan?
I mean, you look at right back. I think it's got to be Frimpong. I think he has to play
Keeping
again.
him in.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, we've got, was it 5 days after that game before Burnley? You know, you mentioned the Crystal Palace game, but as I remember, that was more of a 3 days either side, wasn't it?
And it was like a weird back five with Endo in there as well.
Yeah, he was also injured, isn't he? Yeah, it's still Endo. Yeah.
All I know is I wasted 38 quid in it.
Well, they only had the one centre back because it was Endo and Robertson either side, whereas they don't necessarily need to do that for this one.
Yeah, I guess it depends on whether Gomez is ready to play 90. I would suspect he isn't. In which case, you're going to have at least one of your senior centre backs on the bench. I would imagine Lucky will play alongside whoever starts, and then you're looking at Robertson for left back.
Theo?
Robertson definitely starts. He's captain. I'd imagine Lucky gets a start. Gomez next to him, and I'd go Calvin Ramsey. I think the injury to Bradley means you can't risk Frimpong for that, because if Frimpong gets an injury, then both your right backs are gone going into the Premier League. So I'd go for Ramsey. What I would like to see Arne Slot do is something that Jurgen Klopp did a few times when it's 45 minutes for your senior centre-backs if you're needing them alongside an academy player. So say Gomez plays 45 or an hour, and then you can bring on Konate for 30 minutes just to protect their legs a little bit more. Like you've got Amaro Nallo there, you've got Reece Williams there, but we know Nallo's been sent off both his appearances. Williams, I think, has only been on the bench once under Slot, and that would have been in one of the League Cup games. He's obviously not got a future at Liverpool. So it depends if you're looking at writing the game off, and if you win, you win, or if you are trying to take it a little bit more seriously. And when realistically the FA Cup could be Liverpool's best chance of silverware this year, it's maybe better to have split it with Konate, Gomez, try and manage it a little bit more carefully.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to take it as serious, if I'm honest with you.
You reckon he writes it off?
I think he will. Yeah, and even though that annoys me greatly, I think securing that fourth position in the Premier League is and this is the way football's gone, unfortunately, is far too important. So I do think he's going to write it off. Is Wataru Endo still injured?
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, that could change. It was an ankle injury. I think he was asked about him a week or so ago, and he was saying he's not due back imminently, whereas Joe Gomez was. So when Joe Gomez against Fulham. Yeah, it would have been last week.
I did have him in originally, but because we don't see him that often.
I don't think
he's injured.
I can't say he's definitely not. I don't think he's back. There's been some training pictures of him in the gym, and not out on the grass. And obviously, with the press conference with Barnsley being held straight after Arsenal, we're not going to get any pre-match proper injury updates unless they've gone out of their way to ask him about Endo.
I'm going to assume he's still injured then.
Yeah.
So I'll go with Ramsey at right back. I'm going to have Lucky and Gomez as my centre backs and Robertson at left back. So let's.
We spent a lot of time there.
We spent a lot of time on defence there, a lot longer than I expected. So let's fly through midfield. Mm-hmm. Okay, Morgan, let's go first.
Jones obviously doesn't play a minute yesterday, so he starts. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually comes back in for McAllister against Burnley. So I think we might see McAllister again with Nioni. Our options are pretty short in there, so it might have to be some of the senior lads. Yeah.
Theo?
Jones and Nioni. The issue there is what I'm trying to work out goes in front of them. But yeah, let's go for them, and I'll work it out as we go along.
Okay, I'm pretty much on the same page. Jones and Nioni. I would also play McAllister again. I think he's played less than the other midfielders recently. Yep. And I don't think it would do him any harm whatsoever. He
played in the Palace game, didn't he? I think because he was just coming back from injury or trying to find a bit of form.
Yeah, I think he did actually. Yeah,
that went well.
So look, yeah, I mean, I think another game under his belt wouldn't do him any harm. I don't think so. I would play McAllister, Nioni, Jones, and I'd probably have Jones as the advanced player within that group. To be honest with you, I'll stick with you, Theo, then for your front players. It's slim pickings. So
Engamo is on the left.
Yeah.
Chiesa is in there somewhere. I don't know what state Hugo Ekitike's hamstring is in.
He's not going to play.
Chances of him playing against Barnsley seem like nil to me.
So maybe it's Chiesa up front.
Who else have we got?
You got Kieran Morrison. You can go on the right. It depends which way Slot wants to go, because you could say you're playing McAllister, you're playing Frimpong, or you're wrapping him up and got him all and you're protecting him, and then you turn into the academy there. So I'll go a little bit more senior, because I said FA Cup is a chance of silver where they've got a nice gap. So I'll put McAllister 10 and Gamara on the left, Chiesa up front. I'll go Frimpong right wing.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit more youthful. And it is Kieran Morrison there again.
Morgan?
Yeah, I could see Morrison or another academy player start there, but I think you're both right in saying Ramsey's probably going to play right back. So if I can, I'll change that and stick Frimpong on the right.
You're allowed to change your mind on the Red Podcast.
Actually, I might change my mind on the right wing. I'll go Szoboszlai instead, because he's just always a machine, isn't he?
He's mega fit.
Yeah, we'll protect Frimpong instead. Szoboszlai can just run through walls again.
Okay, no more changes allowed. Okay, these are locked in now. I'm going to go with Angamoa on the left, Chiesa on the right, and Gakpo through the middle. Who I
completely forgot about Gakpo.
Yeah, I didn't want to put names in your mouth, but now I can't allow you to change it, I'm afraid. Rules are the rules.
You've just been saying that McAllister's not been playing much, so that'd be a chance. Yeah, Gakpo's a good shout there, because he's only just come back.
And he can play through the middle, can't he?
Yeah.
Hold the ball up.
Yeah, you've convinced me.
Okay.
I've put my third different right winger in there now by putting Chiesa on the right.
And here we are criticising Arne Slot for playing so many right backs in a game. We can't even pick 11 players to start.
No.
Unbelievable. All right, predictions then. Theo?
2-1 Liverpool.
3-0.
3-0. Confident.
Yeah.
3 goals. Wow. I'll go. I do fancy Liverpool to win this. I don't think it's going to be a classic. I won't be buying the DVD if they still exist.
I'm not sure they do, mate.
I will go.
Ask your lad, see if you can get highlights on TikTok or something for you.
Yeah, I just opened TikTok, by the way. We'll come on to that. It's going to have a lot of echo stuff on it. But, my lad helped me set it up last night. So, as you can imagine, it's going to be fantastic. No, it will be good, I promise. I will go 2-0 to Liverpool. No, I'm going to go 2-1. As everyone else has changed their mind, I'm going to do 2-1.
We didn't change our mind on score predictions. You're so indecisive, Rich.
I know. I normally get them wrong, although I did predict a draw against Fulham, albeit I said 1-1, and the Ghosty went with 2-2, which he only just got right.
Producer Ian wants to go and eat his lunch. You're really dragging this out now.
Okay. Well, I think on that note, we can wrap things up for today. Theo, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on this side of the desk.
A pleasure. Morgan, a solid debut there, I felt. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, have I burst onto the scene?
I think so. I was going to say to our viewers, commemorative Morgan King scarves will be on sale from next week if we can get that signed off by Reach. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we should all get one. I don't know. Theo doesn't look convinced. I think on that note, I think that's all for us today. Thanks for joining us for the Blood Red podcast. No Liverpool game this weekend, so back in action on Monday, and Tuesday. We will have there will be a game on Monday, and there will be a reaction podcast on Tuesday. We'll see you then.
This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.